Oh, so good to see you all. See your smiling faces, and yeah, we're really looking forward to a very profound weekend of just dropping very deep into the experience of your divinity and your love, and it is nice that maybe we can just give a little context for some of you for the movie and how it came, the context it came, a little bit of a backdrop, because that will be very applicable to everything that we're looking at and everything that you're looking at in your mind with us this weekend, and also how the purpose of the movie is kind of like it's been peeking its head out and it's been coming out more and more and more, but it's such a listen and follow with the movie, including before it was made, when it was just an idea or a guidance or a vision, and then the actual experiment really of being there at the monastery during the mystery school and having this movie kind of come through. It's like a channeled kind of movie with you taking on to be the role of the director, quite with short notice, right before the filming began. And then even now we can give a little context to how the movie has been used over the recent months, and some feelings we're starting to have and explorations. So we want to welcome you all and give a great context for the whole thing.
Just want to welcome you all and thank you for joining us for a whole weekend. And we know that we're doing this kind of online retreat actually the first weekend of every month. But this Take Me Home retreat is like our additional for a whole weekend to really bask into an experience with the help of the movie Take Me Home. And the reason that we really want to do that is because we are here to aiming for a direct experience. And this movie can really help in feeling into exactly the inner workings and of the mind training, of the pathway toward happiness. Because when we talk about the inner working, it is such a lifestyle that we were talking a little bit beforehand. It is so much a lifestyle. It's something that is so hard to put into words. Because when we come to this path, we started to feel we're not here just to play with ideas anymore. We're not going to be satisfied with pretty sayings and nice concepts. We want a direct help, we are calling out to Spirit to say, just help me. We need to have real experience, to let go of the suffering, to find real freedom and real happiness, and know that it is truly possible through experience. So what we're feeling is that the making of the movie is just as profound as the movie itself, and that's why we want to just give ourselves over together to join minds for a whole weekend and share a lot of we will share the movie tomorrow afternoon, but also we want to just really use a lot of examples and to just guide the mind to see exactly what this is all pointing into. So we're just really looking forward for a very profound weekend that is going to be guided by the Spirit. So we want to welcome you, and some of you actually are new to our online retreat to joining with us this way. And a big welcome to you. I think we have a lot of people quite a few new people from Australia, from United States, from Canada, and Mexico, Colombia, yeah, a big welcome to you, and also, of course, all of you who are with us every month and ongoing to use this time, use the time for awakening. And yeah, so we want to just take some time, maybe tonight and tomorrow, just to get into the bigger context of this work and how this movie came about and why even we do what we do. Because we also actually received a lot of your questions and prayers, which we're very grateful. We just enjoy reading them so much because they feel so deep. They're directly from your heart. And actually some of these prayers just felt like a direct calling out for help. Reading them is almost like hearing this 4-letter word, H-E-L-P, help, exclamation point. And some of your prayers or questions are around doing, body, how to detach from all these doings, from feeling like I'm trapped in this world. And I think we will zoom into all of those nuances and issues throughout this weekend.
Yeah, we could say too that ego, even though it's just a puff of nothingness, that wasn't created. It's sometimes it's been called clever or even ingenious, and so we would like to point out, some of these tactics, and I would say probably one of the most favorite ego tactics to keep you from knowing who you are is the attempt to bring the truth into the illusion. That's really what A Course in Miracles is pointing out, that there are many religions and spirituality that would like to kind of bring God into the world. I mean, in the extreme, I know people will talk about how do we bring heaven to earth, and that is an example of trying to bring the truth into the illusion. So we've had religions and theologies, we've had philosophies, we've had temples. Some of you know the story of the Tower of Babel, trying to build a tower, high enough into the sky to reach God, and all of the temples that we've had scriptures, deep practices that have been passed on for many generations, and so on and so forth. And now with A Course in Miracles, this amazing helping tool in Scripture, the ego will attempt to bring the truth into the illusion, and as frightened as it is of love, it will try to assimilate, like the Borg, assimilate A Course in Miracles into its own version of spiritual awakening, which is you retain your personhood and then you just study the Course and you become a spiritual person. and it's quite satisfied with anything that you will attempt, including the goal of becoming a spiritual person or even an enlightened person. Because what we always talk about is that the persona, the mask, can't become enlightened. So the idea even of avatars and enlightened beings, those are just symbols, but the ego would have you just stop and say, that's my goal. That's the farthest I can think of, is like an enlightened person, and actually that still fits into the ego's self-concept. The ego can take that and turn it into a person who can spout the theology, but who has not gone through experiences of letting go and emptying the mind, as Jesus and Buddha both talked about. And so it's really beautiful that you come together, because this whole experience we're going to share, including the movie, it kind of shows how the spiritual journey is nothing like you can imagine. It's not what you could imagine it to be. In fact, as soon as you try to imagine it, you can see that can be quite a set self-concept, which this turns into another linear goal, another goal to be achieved into the future. And it's actually more of a dismantling. I think we talk about in I Heart Huckabees, the movie. It's a dissolving. It seems to be a letting go. It has a phase of relinquishment, which is again a letting go. And before the mind actually is able to integrate and experience itself as whole and complete, there's stages of development of trust that you have to go through, and none of them are what you think they are. And so I think it's a good example is the movie, in the sense that even though, Frances, you had a vision and were told that you would make a movie, you weren't really given any set date, so it was just kind of off in the future at some point, and you were told the signs and symbols that you would know when the time was coming. But that's a pretty good example too of how the miracle is involuntary, and the involuntary nature of the miracle is that you have to have the faith and the trust and the willingness to heal. And then along with that willingness to heal and that faith, you have to really let go of what we call the I know mind. If you think you know anything about the world, if you think you know anything about families, if you know anything about structures or even of the academic sciences, because many people are well educated they think they know a lot about the inner workings of the world. All of that will inhibit the forgetting of this world. If you already think you know, you don't really have an impetus, you don't really have an incentive to go through a transformation, because you think, oh, I have a good idea of who I am. Now, maybe I could just improve on that idea. And that is not going to work. In fact, I've found in my life and in most lives of people that I meet who are going through this spiritual transformation, they don't see the turns coming at all, the twists and turns in their life. They, having gone through the turns, they would say, wow, I would have never, ever, ever in a million years predicted that it would go this way. And the less you know, the less you are aware of this world, the more ready you are for the actual transformation. It's like an eclipse. The less aware you are, the more clueless you are about everything, and I mean absolutely everything in the world, that's where the readiness is. So, the story of how you had no training in making a film, and you didn't go to school and have filmmaking skills and abilities, and actually up almost to the beginning of the mystery school, you didn't know that you would be the director. And so that's like a good example of how faithful and willing you have to be guided, to be shown, and then to let the Holy Spirit wipe away everything that seems to be in consciousness that wasn't created by God. And so it's almost like big in the willingness and also big in the help me, take my hand, show me. You're going to have to make, if there's going to be a movie, you're going to have to make the movie through me, because I don't have a prior past learning experience to make such a movie.
Yeah. And actually that is a very relaxing message, because whatever you think you can come up with in your idea of how this spiritual journey is going to look like, what you have to do about it, it's never going to be like that. And I think Jesus actually says in the Course, there is nothing from the past that you would share, because there is nothing from the past you would keep. So that is the attitude he wants us to tap into every moment. There is nothing from the past you would like to bring to the present moment, including the past knowledge, the past ideas, even ideas about how to heal, how to let go of the ego, how to go about life. So I would say that actually when we look back of even the spiritual journey, a lot of it was, I didn't see this coming at all. The Spirit throws something to us because there is an internal yearning and desire to tap into something, to expand and to get in touch with the Spirit and let go of this layer, this veil of the ideas that we hold on to. So the Spirit throws something so new and just saying, okay, don't even try, don't even attempt to come up with a plan. You have me now, and let me guide you. So this whole movie, when you watch the movie tomorrow, you will see every character that got filmed was going through nothing but that, was stripping away their ideas, their self-concept of who they think they are, how they should relate, how they should be, how to prove their worth. And for the making of the movie, it is the exact same, because when we came together, we, like David was saying, first the idea was, it came to me through a dream in 2011, and in the dream I was just feeling, okay, I feel so joyful if I could find a way to share what I had experienced in the monastery. There was real hope to heal, and I didn't really know the extent of the method, but I had this huge desire, if there's something I could convey or I could share, then this dream came to me. You will make a documentary movie, and I was overjoyed. I woke up with ecstatic joy. But that was 2011, and at that time, of course, I didn't think I could do it because I had no way of doing it. But there was excitement of wanting to follow the Spirit, wanting to be used in that way, and wanting to see, ultimately, don't we all want to know that we can be guided through everything in time and space, that we don't have to put our mind into time and space, and we can truly relax and give our mind over to the love and joy when we want to be convinced that we can do that. And I feel like, oh my God, if I could learn to listen and follow the Spirit in such a way that I can just be an empty vessel and make a whole movie through listening and following the guidance, I am in. I wrote David an email straight away in 2011. I said, this is my dream. I would love to do it. But the movie didn't come in until 2017. So there was 6 years of waiting and questioning. Yeah, maybe not everything in the dream will become true, Maybe I wasn't really clear maybe it was a metaphor. And there was also times of, wow, Spirit, is this, what, are you just playing with me? What is it going to be done? And then I remember when I was questioning it during a walk one day, a couple of years after the dream, I heard, relax, it will be done, it's already done. That was what I heard. It's already done. And I felt so much truth in what I heard. It was an immediate calm of every fiber in my being. I relaxed completely. I thought, okay, this is already done. I don't really have any power in changing what is done. I don't have a power to delay it. I don't have a power to make it happen before it's supposed to happen. It's done. The people that you would need to help to help make it happen will be sent to you at the right time. Okay. So I truly let it go, completely put it in the back of my mind until 2017 in February. Then we had a filmmaker who initiated to join us in a filmmaking project. He would be the director, and we called Soren from Copenhagen that I met, he had experience in making documentary movie. Then a few other people as well. They all had passion. So they all said yes. Very quickly, this thing just started to come together. The team was going to arrive in May, and we set the time to film with the backdrop of a 30-day mystery school. And that event was already planned. That was an event that there will be 20 people who come from all over the world, maybe for the first time to the monastery to actually just live in the unknown, live in a way to trust and follow the spirit and see what's going to come up and heal whatever that needs to be healed. So we thought, well, that was a perfect backdrop. We just filmed 30 days of that event. So that was how it came together. But like David said, then things happened. The director pulled out, and the team was coming, and we realized we didn't really have a director very close to the event. And there were so many decisions that need to be made, so many decisions. Very, very practical, what equipment to run, the type of the camera, the making of the camera, how many, the budget, the kind of hard drive, the speed. Who knows? Nobody knows anything about any of it. And we had a woman in the community at the time, and she came to me and with a notepad, and she said, we have to get some things done because it takes 10 days to ship, and the team arrives in 10 days. We have to get these decisions done. And I heard I'm the assistant to the director, so I'm going to get into it. I said, oh, great. Who is the director? She said, you're the director. I'm your assistant. And I thought, okay, that was clear.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting too, because from a worldly perspective, things in the spiritual journey can be interpreted as like, wow, that is spontaneous to not know you're directing a film until, days was it before. But I want to go back to use this as a way of showing you the context of this is how the Spirit works, and this is giving you really good examples of how it's important to not already have a set idea that you already know how to do something. If the mind knew how to wake up, it would be awake. Obviously, it made the mind with the ego made the world, but it's almost like it didn't have a plan of escape. It was like it was making a one-way ticket to hell, so to speak, or the belief in separation from God, but it didn't have a rescue plan. It didn't have a way out. In fact, the Holy Spirit was given as the rescue. So I want to just roll it back too for the context. Like, it's almost like I think it is like a triple grace story. First of all, Frances was born and raised in Beijing, China. So Frances doesn't really have an idea of Christianity. When you were raised in Beijing, China, you didn't have preconceived ideas of Jesus or Christianity. Now, do you know what a gift it is to be given A Course in Miracles without any preconceived ideas of Christianity? Without preconceived ideas of the Judeo-Christian learning. It's a grace to be given A Course in Miracles when you don't know about Jesus and you don't have a context about Jesus. In fact, the more I got to know Frances, we actually went to see a Beatles movie, and Frances just cried and cried and cried during the Beatles movie. I think it was a Ron Howard movie. What was it called?
8 Days,
8 Days a Week. And I sat next to Frances as she watched 8 Days a Week and cried, and she experienced the Beatles for the first time. You know how much fun that is to watch somebody who's experiencing the whole story of the Beatles in one sitting, she didn't know of the Beatles growing up in Beijing. They didn't make it to Beijing, they made it to Japan.
Right.
They came close, so that's like a grace, to be given A Course in Miracles without preconceived ideas about Christianity and the theology of Christianity. Second grace is you had the strong feeling that something big, you had to stay in Australia for some important thing that you did not know what it was, but you had to stay, again, like with the movie, and wait and wait. So it was just this very strong feeling that she had to stay in Australia, but not knowing what for. So she patiently waited, and then it was when I came down and toured down there that she got the confirmation, like, this is what you've been waiting for. So that was like a meeting with me, again, without preconceived. It wasn't like she knew anything about me, or she knew anything about what I was doing. In fact, when Jason showed up, I think at your meetup meeting, you're like, who is this guy, David Hoffmeister? This is a Course in Miracles meetup meeting. Who is this David Hoffmeister? So you see that double grace right there? No preconceived ideas of the Course, of Jesus, of David, and that yet she's get this strong intuitive feeling that something important is going to be unfolding. And then I would say now with the movie, here comes the movie, she gets a little glimmer of a dream. You will make a movie, but again, the wait, what was it, 6?
6 years.
6 years of waiting with it's not like she's going to film school, she's polishing off her directing skills. She doesn't even know that she's going to be the director till days before the event, the mystery school starts. And I'm telling you this to give you the context that what you already believe you know about spirituality, and what you believe you already know about religion, and what the concept you hold in your mind for how the spiritual journey will go for you, how you imagine it to go, all of that will block you from the actual experience. To the extent you already feel you know something, it's like that has to be cleared away, because the truth can't come into the illusion of a personality self. The truth can't come into linear time and space. Even in the Bible said, perfect love casts out fear, and we're learning from the Course, you have to go through the darkness to the light, but you have to bring the illusions of what you feel and think and believe and perceive to the light of truth so that they can disappear and you can wake up from the dream. But I can't emphasize enough how, as we start to go into this experience, that was almost like that was like your third graceful moment where you really didn't know what was going to happen at all. But you were very willing to allow everything to be used for healing. And to the world's perspective, that's not the way we were raised. If you want to build a house, you better have some blueprints, you better have some architects, you better have some engineers, you better have somebody to pour the concrete footers, you better have some carpenters if you're going to build it out of wood, you better have some shingle layers, you better have somebody to lay the asphalt or to plant the grass seed. The world would say you've got to have your ducks in a row, and you have to be well prepared with the skills and abilities and the means financially to accomplish anything. And yet, spiritual awakening flips the table and says, no, actually the less you know, the less you can conceive of in terms of this spiritual awakening, partnered with great faith and willingness to say, I want to heal. Whatever I learned in the past, it has not brought me salvation. It has not brought me consistent joy. You say I need trust, but then bring it on. Help me develop it. You say I need to expand my faith? Please, by all means, broaden my faith. You say I need to learn how to listen and follow your voice, the small, still voice within? okay, that is what A Course in Miracles is aiming at, is that opportunity. Give yourself an opportunity to let your mind be emptied and see what's really, really there. So already it's exciting because you've almost had like a triple grace, and now you're walking right into a project that you've been named the director. You've been given the director role, and you're quite clueless of what a director does. And then you can say the characters start showing up, including a world-class cinematographer coming onto your team. You're the director, now you're going to be the director, and you've never directed before in your life. And oh yeah, here comes Babe Ruth on your team, and oh yeah, Hank Aaron, oh yeah. You all of a sudden, you get a legendary cinematographer, and even that's how we can talk about the miracles, because he doesn't speak English.
Yeah.
It's almost like, oh great, a world-class cinematographer who doesn't speak English, and the rest of the team all speaks English. But that's how we started to pray right from the get-go. We had to pray about everything because of the context of the Spirit's doing this. I'm not doing this. This is a good example of it is not I that live, but Christ that lives in me. This is an example of the line from the Course where Jesus says, it cannot be difficult to do the task that Christ appointed you to do, for it is He who does it. That sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Doesn't that sound really beautiful? It cannot be difficult to do the task that Christ appointed you to do, because it is He who does it. Now, experientially, you may be going, wow, how's that going to work? How is Jesus going to make a movie through me moment by moment? But that's the kind of context that we have going in here.
Yeah, and it is truly a blessing that I wouldn't even dare to take the credit, because I knew from the get-go it wasn't me who was going to be able to do it. And I think actually everything that we're doing is He who does it. But somehow there is a layer of ignorance, or we just keep the ego going to say this is I who is doing it. But this is just, the blessing is to actually see it as it is. Sees it as it is. You don't have a confusion or delusion that you're the one who actually make it, which really develops the trust, talking about it, because we, how did the team come together? I didn't really pull the team together. I don't really know what even was needed to make a movie. How many technical people are needed to put a movie together? It was completely Jesus' plan. And like David said, this world-renowned cinematographer showed up because he's the father of someone who actually came to the monastery a couple of years ago, Raphael, who went through this huge healing in the monastery just by being there for 3 months. And his father, we always knew that his father was this big name cinematographer, but then we realized Raphael applied for mystery school, so we thought, what a miracle, Raphael applied. So we'll call him, Raphael, you're coming to mystery school, yes. Well, we're making this movie, would you be interested? Oh, yes, and my father is wanting some time of silence. He booked a whole month of May free, which rarely happens for his father. So he can come too, to help with the project, because he heard silence and hermitage and monastery. So we were overjoyed. Oh my God, not only Raphael is coming, but his father is coming. But then later on we realized it was another Raphael who applied. We called the wrong person. But that mistake even, we were so clueless, but every single thing was contributing to this huge plan. And we didn't really know what what we're doing, how to make it right, how to make it wrong, is all so perfect. That's like the good news of it. We didn't do any of it, and we didn't do it right or wrong. It's all just what it's supposed to be.
It's a little like the Three Stooges, when we get such inspiration. Look, Raphael is applied to come to the mystery school. Oh my gosh! So right away we think we know which Raphael it is. We get all excited. We're enthusiastic. We call. Oh, my father wants to come. So here we've got Raphael from Portugal coming, and his world-class cinematographer father, who's just Acasio, who's booked a whole free month to come to do it. And then after the fact, it's like, oops, But see, the Spirit's doing it. There's no oops. There's no mistakes. Everything that you need is given you, whether you're fully aware of how it's happening or not. Jesus was assembling your team. He said the team would be assembled, and that was just a good example. And then I remember when you came to me and you said, well, I was going to have maybe Raphael do some camera work or do some things, but Acasio doesn't speak English. And I said, I have a friend, Teresa, who's over there in Portugal, and she's bilingual. Let's give her a call. And you're like, you mean we would just fly?
It's 2 days before.
It's 2 days before. You're gonna fly call this friend and just say, oh, by the way, can you fly across the ocean and come and translate and be part of a film? This is like 2 days before it's starting, so it's not like there's advance notice. And then, of course, you can tell the story.
She was also so clueless because she was so overjoyed. Oh my God, David called me to fly me to the United States. Yes. She went to the airport, and she realized she doesn't have an passport. She realized that at the airport. She called us back.
She was so joyful. Yes, I'll do it. Passport, please. Oh, I don't have a passport.
But I think something miraculous happened.
She was able to get a passport right there at the airport. Imagine going to the United States or your particular country and trying to fly out of your country to the United States without a passport. And then that was another miracle. You see, it's all Jesus arranging time and space. If people could see how little control we seem to have, and how everything is given that is needed to be provided for this awakening journey. And that turned into another miracle story. Yeah, she was able to actually, right there, she had great patience and persistence to at the airport to get a passport. So that was the way that our translator for the world-class cinematographer came.
Yeah, but this is just, for us, it's so rewarding because that was truly the purpose of us even doing the project, purely for listening and following. We were given the project. It was so obvious, it was so obvious. Nobody pushed it to happen. Nobody pushed it away. It was given. And then we say yes, and it's a great ride just to relax and watch how things come together. Actually, that is the biggest learning. Stay back and watch. Just watch how things come together, how Jesus will do it, Spirit will do it through you, but not by you.
Yeah.
And it is just in every element. And this is why we want to tell these stories, because this is it's transferable to absolutely everything in our lives. This is exactly the kind of lives that Spirit wants us to live. He has a magic carpet. He wants us to take a ride with Him and just relax. And that's why we want to share, because it's so joyful. There is no effort. If anything, we just laugh of how clueless we were for this.
This is not like an exception, or we're not giving you just like a sequence of miracles that we experienced just around the movie. It's literally everything. It does have a bit of a fairy tale quality with the way things are arranged, the way you just have the willingness, the prayer to heal, and to be shown and to be guided, and then things seem to drop into place. It's, from a time perspective, it seems to be miracles after miracles. I call them like cascading miracles. But what we're describing to you is not the exception. This is the glimpse. This is the microcosm of literally a life full of these kind of miracles. And even though the purist of the Course would say it's like a shift of perception, when you really let go of thinking you're in charge and you're in control of how the world goes and how your day goes and everything, the synchronicities, what was that movie, The Celestine Prophecy, Redfield? I mean, there's so many teachings, spiritual teachings that talk about synchronicities, that you start to see these metaphors, these signs, these symbols. That's what people like about, even when they're reading a Dan Brown novel, there's all these signs and symbols that lead the way for the main character, and you can't wait to turn the page to see what's next, what miraculous sign and symbol will come next. But you have to really be willing to not have preconceived ideas about how things will look. Because to the extent that you have past learning, preconceived ideas, that will keep the mind instead of letting the light pour through and the miracle shine through, it's more, sometimes for most people they say, I get a miracle here and there. I don't know that they tell me I don't experience like daily miracles, but I get one here or there, a rare one here or there, and I rejoice. And it's more of a trickle, David. It's not the Amazon River. It's a trickle. It's a drip. I've got drip feed going on here, and I'm asking for a little bit more than drip feed. But you're talking about like the Amazon. But with the willingness, then that's convincing. Like just the beginnings of the movie, with everything showing up, equipment, characters, people to learn how to be behind the cameras. Because Acacio, he's used to having many assistants that are highly trained camera people, highly trained, and he just kind of gives them the instructions, and Piers uses his eye, his cinematography eye, to get, that's the shot, that's it right there, this is it. He's got the perception of a cinematographer, but he has trained camera people. And here we're starting off with, we're happy to get the cameras there.
We didn't know the cameras we needed to run. We didn't know what camera was even fit for our budget and to make a movie. So Acacio said, let me ask my assistant. And then he came back with, this is the type of camera you can get. When we got the camera, we said, okay, let's set it up. What settings? Acacio said, I don't know. I don't set up cameras. I don't know how to set it up. So we were like, wow. And I also, just the thing is, what I see now as such a blessing was how I was pushed into this situation, because to tell the truth, for the mind to deliberately to go to the unknown and enjoy it is actually counter the way we were trained. We don't feel comfortable. We don't deliberately just saying, I would dump all my comfort zone and just go to the unknown. There is such unconscious, protecting, defending, going on all the time to make sure that we are in this protected zone and we don't really go out of it. So what happened was I had nowhere to go, because at the beginning we had very little time to make all these technical decisions. And I have to make a decision with the Spirit. I have no other tools. I had to pray and just trust what I hear. That was all the time and every resource I can access. Nothing else. Prayer, I don't even have time to say how to pray, how exactly, and do I hear the right voice? There was no time to even doubt that. Pray, hear, go. That was how it all started. And then when Acacio arrived, I thought, oh, now I can trust my team. So I constantly go to Acacio, what should we do? What do you think? The first day, Acacio said, I listen to you. You are my director. I listen to you. You tell me. And I was like, okay, he trusted me. He trusted me. That was amazing.
That shows, again, the whole thing, that even though he's a world-class cinematographer, he's used to working as part of a system where he receives guidance and instruction. And in one sense, that's what all of our prayers are. We want to hear the Spirit's guidance and instruction. And we need opportunities where we're put in there where we can't go hem and haw and take a poll and what do you think and what do you think? We know it's like on the spot, Johnny on the spot. We have to make the decisions right now. And that's where I think it builds trust, because when you just let go into that, then it's like, okay, this is what we're doing. And then this instruction, as soon as Frances heard, you need to tell me, then that activated the Holy Spirit in Frances as the director. Then she could, with certainty, say, okay, we're going to do this. And the confidence of inner listening and speaking what she was hearing started to grow very, very strong, which was absolutely necessary. I don't think the movie couldn't have been filmed. The mystery school also, we're doing a mystery school at the same time, so we had how many people?
20 maybe.
20 people from around the world that have come there to go through a 30-day mystery school, a 30-day dismantling of their ego, of helping to be lifted out of their ego so-called comfort zones and start to experience their heart opening up, start to experience their own intuitions and guidances with the Holy Spirit. They're coming, that's a lot of days, 30 days to come there. And so that was so-called the backdrop. We were there to do a mystery school, and then all this was just happening like on the side of the mystery school, which was really the mystery school itself for you and also for all the camera people, the whole film crew.
Yeah, it just reminded me, because when Acacio did say that, I trust you, you are my director, it's my job to trust you, it did activate something, and it reminds me of one of the workbook lessons in the course when, I think in one of the lessons, Jesus says, today we're just gonna have very loose, you just have this thought in mind whenever you think of it. And he said, I trust you. I trust you how you want to use this. And when I read that lesson, actually it activated something. It's like, whoa, Jesus trusts me. He trusts me. That is, sometimes, the ego just wants to doubt forever. The ego is that voice, that doubting the self. It never wants you to know the power of your mind. It never wants you to know it's all just up to your desire. You can change everything if you choose to. It never wants you to trust this voice that you already hear all the time. It's doubting. And that moment when you are put in this situation, whether it's a day that when we're doing a lesson, Jesus said, I trust you today. Or in this film project, Acacio saying, I trust you, or any situations. This is our chance to say, okay, I'm going to shut down this voice, just never stop. No, not listening to that. So yeah, that truly was the mystery school for everybody in the film team. And actually, in the end, even though the plan was to film people who came to the mystery school for 30 days and the transformation, it didn't happen as planned, because the film team had the most emotions. So we have a lot of emotions and a lot of things to clear behind the camera. And it was the easiest way for us just to turn the camera because it feels real, it feels relevant. It is such a dismantling of self-concept, of I know mind. It was such a transparent time for everybody in the team to give themselves over, completely do this. So that's how it turned out. You know, we didn't even know what eventually this movie would be about or who it would be about or featuring. There was no plan going into it as well, but it all revealed itself to us.
Yeah, and so you can kind of see that that was the way it was for the film team, and then the participants of the mystery school were there, but actually the film team were the ones that were mostly filmed. And also with the mystery school, this was not a planned thing where we have a curriculum lined out and detailed for 30 days. And we're just going through a pre-planned curriculum. That's not how Jesus guided us to do a mystery school. We're taking every day and we're praying together what will come. We don't even... So the film crew is just learning how to set up lighting, to set up cameras and everything. And then in the mystery school, we don't know. We have to pray to see what sessions are coming. Day by day by day. What happens in the morning? Pray. We go through the session. Okay, we have lunch. What's next? You know, that was very much like with this coronavirus. You know, people are starting to have to pray every day because of what seemed to be their habits and their patterns of going to jobs and social things and going out to eat and going to theaters or taking walks, doing all these things. Suddenly it's been disrupted and it's like more in the moment, like, okay, what am I going to do now? And this is a good thing. It's a good thing that everyone's going through now, and it was very helpful to have the film crew and the entire mystery school just focused on prayer and guidance. Not as some kind of theory, but literally taking it day by day and literally moment by moment we were finding with the film crew, because there was emotions, huge emotions coming up, and also some for the participants, but we had people working with them. So it was just like a practicum, like a very strong practicum of healing, of true, deep emotional healing. And that definitely comes out in the movie. You can see it written all over the faces. It's sometimes they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. You can just look at the faces of the participants and you can see that there's unconscious feelings coming to the surface. There's unconscious beliefs. Whatever people were thinking, it's not like hidden private thoughts. These even the film team expression sessions were raw, very, very emotionally raw. And you had to kind of just be very peaceful and calm and almost like be a conduit and a welcomer, saying it's safe, it's safe. Don't focus so much on the task here. We'll focus on, we'll do that too, but you need to feel safe just being here and moving forward day in and day out.
Yeah, we actually showed the movie to a friend of ours, a real director in Mexico City. He just watched it a few days ago, and we had a call yesterday, and he was watching some of the film crew expression, and he was like, "Oh, that's the way you talk." It was very, very raw.
He was triggered. Yeah, just as being a director and watching the film, but that was good too, because you could see his wife is saying he's expanding now. He's not even relating to his actors and producers and screenwriters the same way in his meetings, because he's touched. So it's like an allowance or permission. When you start to move in this direction, you really do have to have the faith to hang in there, because that's why the mind repressed this intensity in the first place. That's why there seems to even be an unconscious mind, is because of the intensity of the emotions. But we're seeing here, of course that's our whole life, of reversing that, of a great allowance for that. And also a great faith that you still can move ahead and still do the filming. You still did the filming. It wasn't like you just kind of came together and there was a puddle of emotions and you said, oh, scrap it. You know, we got the cameras, we got everything here, but the emotions are too intense.
I think that was a good point, because, you know, we have this question, do we focus on the spirit or do we focus on the world? That was to the mind, how can you just focus on the spirit, and if you don't focus on the world, what are the how are the logistics, how am my life going to be, how my work done? And for this project, I hope that can be a demonstration that if we focus, if we give our priority to our mind for healing, everything else will be done for us. So it's not, the fear was, if I just relax into trust, I just trust and focus on the healing of my mind, I will just end up a couch potato, or I'm going to be irresponsible, I'm going to be this. But that is just an idea that we don't want to bring to the present. That idea needs to be let go of, because that is not what is going to happen. So with the movie, it is extremely practical. It is a real project. You can't just be chanting and getting, it's not going to be done that way. So there seems to be an outpour of actions and a lot of communication, a lot of actual action and doing. But how is this really done is through focusing on the healing in the mind. So when we came together, the film team came together very excited. We barely know each other. Most of us actually don't know each other. So when we came together, very quickly, when you came together and work on a real project, suddenly all the emotions and attack thoughts and projections start to happen with each other. This should be done this way. Who are you to tell me? There are many, many things just start to rise up. And for us, we cannot push those things away. We cannot sweep it under the carpet and say, this is really important to do. We have to get it done. And let's forget about our emotions and focus on the best, most efficient way to get a project done. It's not working because if we're not connected, if we're not really aiming at really following the spirit together, there's only one spirit and we're all following together like it's a one unit, and then forgive everything that is standing in the way between us, among us. So that was the goal. We're moving towards the spirit's given direction, but among us, everything that's standing in the way as projection, we have to give priority to forgive. So it was true, actually, a lot of the time were used for meetings, for talking through, for expressions. But in my experience, everything else was done so quickly. It was unbelievable how quick those things were done. Once you have nothing in between you anymore, you have everything healed, everything was out in the open, nothing was hidden. You express it, you look at it, you feel safe, you feel connected. Then the action aspect was very, very quick. Actually, my problem was by day 23, we have 30 days. By day 23, I stopped hearing everything. I stopped hearing the daily instructions. And I thought, it can't be finished by now. I'm only like 20 some days into the 30 days. But that was it. There was no more things to be done. And then we just had a few more days at the very end of the retreat because there was a big ceremony. You will see it was the ending of the movie. We had a wedding there. So, but if you really think about the actual project, the action element was so quick, so easy. It was like a flow. It was done before you realize it. And the only reason that experience was like that was because there was a huge focus on the healing, and what was behind, what was the real purpose of this project. Is this for the future goal, or is this for a present healing? And we have to constantly come back to the priority. So
yeah, I think too, to give you a context for this is we are part of a very, very devoted spiritual community that believes that Jesus can speak to us and guide us. And for me, it's been being shown in a practical way. Even though this was our first mystery school, we were calling it a mystery school, a 30-day mystery school, I had done maybe 4 of these big, we call them devotional retreat. I think the first one I did was 4 weeks in Mallorca, and then there was 6 weeks. The ones after that were all 6 weeks. So that wasn't something new for us, to show up and to have people come and land on the same spot from different parts of the world for a number of weeks, to be together, to live together with no preset curriculum, no preset, you'll be coming and you'll be on the kitchen team and you'll do this and that. We have people showing up to make a movie who don't really know each other and who are trusting that the Spirit is there and is going to bring about healing. We have 20 participants coming with the same willingness to show up for 30 days and trust that they will go through a very deep healing experience without a prearranged curriculum. Obviously, forgiveness is our curriculum, but that's given moment by moment. You have to really listen and follow. And also, you might say it was a deep tradition of trust. It was like years of devotional trust, of listening and following, where we have that confidence. So when we meet to have a lunch or a dinner, we just are there in prayer, and we're open and we're transparent and we're exposing, and we are seeing what is it for us now, what is given. But that is you have to make that a lifestyle, or as Jesus says in the Course, he says you have to be habitually miracle-minded. Habitually miracle-minded. He's not saying you can't just do it the way you've done it in the past, and then when things start to get really difficult and ego seems to be clashing and rearing its head and things get really extreme and worse, then you run off in your closet and go, "Help me, Jesus, please pull me out of this." This is like a lifestyle. This is a day-by-day mind training. This is like Byron Katie would call inquiry with everything. Asking her questions with everything. She's watching her mind 24/7. She's probably asking her inquiry questions in her dreams at night because she's so devoted to that inquiry. Similarly, this is the devotion. This is the level of devotion. And that's why we could confidently say, "Come." We could welcome all these different people from around the world to be on the film team. Even though the direction of the film even shifted pretty early on, that's what's given. Then the film team will be the ones filmed. They'll be the filmers and the filmees. Didn't see that one coming. And then you've got 20 people, you'll see in the movie, they've got their emotions going on too. There's emotions in the kitchen. You throw 3, 4, 5 people together in a community kitchen, and they're not necessarily chefs, or maybe they have a whole self-concept of being the chef, and that's going to be dismantled. You see how much trust it takes to come together. Almost reminded me of the 60s. Some of you remember or have heard of the 60s. They called them encounter groups. Oh, cool. Cool, man. Yeah, let's just meet out on the park. Yeah, we'll meet out on the grass. What are you doing? We're going to have an encounter. We're doing an encounter group. What's an encounter group? Oh, we're going to express our emotions and maybe play some music and jam a little, put on the boombox, Encounter groups, that's exciting. Wow, that has a huge potential for healing. Now we're in quarantine, but those were the days. The 60s encounter groups, bring out your tie-dye and, really get into it. I think I mostly read about this. Not that I didn't ever have long hair and the beads and everything, but I was in that vibe in the 70s. And I think for those who are doing the course, remember, every encounter is a holy encounter, Jesus says. And really, Jesus is saying in the course, you need to have a prayer on your heart. I am here only to be truly helpful. Really, that's what I think the film crew and everyone at the mystery school was going through, a prayer of more and more showing up with a desire to be healed and a willingness. And really that, how can I be helpful? Because there has to be something inside that carries us through when there's all these ego expressions and, I don't like what you're doing there, and you're amateurs here, and this and this and this. All the ego stuff is there, but there has to be a very strong faith and trust to be carried through. And that fits with what I was sharing earlier about, not thinking you already know before you get to the situation. Some of you remember that from Rules for Decision in the Course in Miracles, where Jesus says, your main problem is you first decide what to do, and then you ask me. You see? This is toward the end of the text. When Jesus is giving rules for decision, your major problem is you first decide what to do, and then you ask. You see, he's saying, oh no, it doesn't work that way. You ask me first, and then I'll tell you what to do. I'll give you the guidance. I'll give you the instructions. It'll be so wonderful if you tune in and ask first and follow what is given you, then first egoically deciding based on your past learning, based on your ego preferences, based on your own personal interpretation of the situation. If you do that first and you make your decision, then chances are you're going to be going help, because you've already stepped off the cliff, so to speak. You've already arrogantly chosen what the situation means according to past learning. So that's what this whole thing seems to be like, an actual practicum in I will step back and let him lead the way.
And I think a lot of the times we don't really realize that everything happens is such an answer to our prayer, because the Spirit hears the prayer of our heart, and the Spirit is there with us to orchestrate that, to pull us through whatever that's happening. And it is such an honor for me, actually, because I went through this project from beginning to end. We filmed about 300 hours of footage, and we filmed everybody. You will see just a few characters, but we filmed a lot more footage. And I saw all their expressions, all their prayers at the very beginning of the month. Some of the prayers they don't even remember. And then I get to watch what played out during the month. And the pain that they were going through, even though that was the exact thing that they were praying for. It was amazing for me to see how everything is a prayer is not a problem. And it was the ego's judgment, the ego's way of looking at everything, until it's the problem. You need to change. There is a lack going on. This is not what you want. But if you really see, you take a step back and just see everything. It is amazing how everything is a prayer, is an answer to our prayer. And that's why we can trust. That's why we actually are able to just say, everybody can come and we don't have to have any plans, because we're not afraid things will go wrong, because nothing will go wrong. If you just plant your mind so firmly to be with the Spirit, to see with the Spirit, to think with the Spirit, you don't perceive things going wrong, because everything actually heals and come together. So there is no real fear of, is the emotion too intense? Where is it leading? The work does involve really looking at the ego and the emotions. But once you allow them and you look at it, you're not afraid of them anymore.
Yeah. I think also I can stress that I'll use a little metaphysics here from the Course to kind of throw us really into a much more helpful context. It's for most people, they have this story of their life that begins with birth, and then it begins in time and space, and it begins in a location with a particular set of parents or parent and a context. And for human beings, they believe that their beginning, that's why they call it birthday. You celebrate your birthday. It starts with the slap on the bottom and the you're coming to the world and everything as a little baby. Oh, believe me, that's not the beginning at all. It's a mind experience. It seems like you tell this story like as if I was born to these parents and I was born into this kind of socioeconomic class and I was born into this culture and I was born at this time or this era. And it seems like there's all these time-space factors that shape and determine who we are as people. The only thing is, none of it is true and none of it is realistic. It's a big shared lie. It's an attempt to share a lie. And what Jesus does in the Course is he says, this is all part of a self-concept, a time-space self-concept that you made to take the place of your real Christ identity, your real identity in heaven. And it's involving a self-concept that has two tiers. It's got a face of innocence, which is your personality self that seems to have things, some bad things happen to it, and sometimes the face of innocence is wet with tears at the injustices of the world, and we say, oh, my parents, my mom treated me this way, my dad, do you know what kind of neighbor I had? And oh, I happened to be born during a famine, or imagine being born now. Oh, I'm a 2020 baby, it's like, oh yeah, I'm a Corona baby. Yeah, what do I got to start off for my life? Corona. The whole world's into lockdown and isolation. Nobody's hugging, and everybody's walled off and quarantined. Imagine your story being a 2020 baby. You tell the future generations, oh, I was born, I had an unfair start. But you see, the whole thing is, Jesus says, the self-concept is two. You have a dream that you dream in secret and a dream that you gave away. What we perceive as the world, of time and space, is the dream that was given away. As if, he says, it's done to you. Oh, now I'm a human being on planet Earth and now I'm dealing with this, it's an external thing. It's a corona thing. You got a corona thing going on there, and we got some economic waves going, lots of political tidal waves and this, as if the situations you face every day and the world that you perceive is external to you. Because now, if once you give away this dream and you have a dream that you dream in secret, that's the unconscious mind. That's the mind, that's where all these beliefs of attack are. Attack, division, conflict, competition. That's the dream that you dream in secret, and the dream that you gave away is now as if it's being done to you as a person. So people seem to have minds of their own, and now they're characters, and sometimes they're sweet, and sometimes they're vicious, and sometimes they're loving, and sometimes they're hateful, spiteful. And sometimes it's, oh, let's baseball, hot dog, apple pie, and Chevrolet, and then Corona, 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 Corona. You know, it can shift pretty drastically, but it still seems like the world is happening to you, like you're dealing with external situations and external conditions. And now Jesus is here, the great, the way, the truth, and the life, the master, to tell us, no, you're dreaming it, and it's there by your own election. Everything that you perceive is there by your own election. You made a decision in your mind, and that's why the world seems to be the way it is, with no exceptions. So whatever you perceive in the world is your perception of yourself and your mind projected outward as if it's being done to you as a person. Why is all that important? Well, it's because that's why what we're talking about with this movie and this mystery school is so important. Because if you think that situations just happen to you, and you can say, oh, I had a good day, I had 5 good things happen to me, and only 3 bad things. Oh yeah, who says they're good and bad? Who says they're good and bad? And more than that, it's not like they're being done to you against your will, it's the mind is calling forth witnesses to what it believes. You know, you've heard of as you sow, so shall you reap, giving and receiving are the same. That's what the whole meaning of that Solaris movie is. You know, it's the power of the mind and drawing forth these witnesses. So the reason I'm sharing this is because in the context of, let's just come back to the example of the movie, everyone's used to wanting the world to be a certain way, look a certain way, and yet everyone is reacting and responding as if they're being offended multiple times every day by something not their own mind, you know. And that's what's ridiculous about it. That's why the angels are always laughing. Every time the humans are doing whatever they're doing, the angels are just howling, laughing, because it's got to be a comedy. Talk about a divine comedy of doing it to yourself, but continuing to play the blame game, continuing to put it out onto a world that's really not out there at all. That's what the Course is teaching us. It's not, the world's not external to your mind. So that's why it's so important to trust. That's why it's so important to learn to make a contact with the intuitive, the Spirit's voice, because without that, it's going to be a lot of delays, and it's going to seem to be like a very hard, difficult, and sometimes it will seem pointless, it will seem futile, it will seem like, why do this? Like, what's the point? It's like it's overwhelming when you see it all as external, but as soon as you start to have a faith that you can make a change by following this inner guidance, this intuition, it turns, as Byron Katie says, it turns everything around. It's instead of accusing this politician and saying, I can't believe what he did, why not bring it back and say, wow, I still am not willing to face what I believe I've done. Whenever I'm still questioning somebody else's motives and saying they are evil or they have ill intent, get them out of here. Get them out of my face. I don't want to see them on my movie screen anymore. Get them out. Fire them. It's really the opportunity to look inside and say, what is it that I don't want to face in my mind, that I'm saying, get them out of here? What is it that I don't want to face in my own motives if I'm pointing the finger? You know, Jesus said, before you get the speck out of your brother's eyes, he said in the Bible, get the beam or the log out of your own. Whatever egoic thoughts and beliefs that I'm not willing to face, that I'm going to just assume are true, and I don't like, then the projection is, oh, they're the problem, they need to change, they're not right, something's not right in the world. But you can see how the whole thing has to turn around. That's what actually spiritual healing is bringing it all back and seeing that you are empowered. Your mind is empowered when you see that you've been doing it to yourself and you're not willing to continue doing it to yourself anymore. That's where the healing occurs.
And that is exactly why we want to give every symbol, every task, every bit of our life over to be guided by the Spirit. And that is the point of guidance, because is the reason that we're given a project and we're saying, okay, let's just have this project be done based on guidance. Is that because it's going to have a better product? Not really. It's not really for any of that reason. It's purely because there is a unconscious guilt. There is a projected world out there. And anytime when we still think there is a problem, we actually don't really know the source of the problem. But by following the guidance, we are gradually getting into the core of who we are, because where the guidance is coming from is the core. So if we want to go back to the core, if we want to realize the core, wouldn't that make sense? You follow the core, that you don't go against it. That is actually very logical, or in that way. Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to realize myself. I want to see what is truly my true self, then follow the true self. It's such a blessing to actually know that Spirit can guide us, even in this perceptual world. And that is because everything is used, it's symbols, and the Spirit is inside, and we can give those symbols completely for a different purpose. We can say these symbols, even the whole time of space, is purely given to you, and I don't have my own agenda because I don't really know the problem, so I don't know the solution. I don't know the ideal outcome that I want to achieve in time and space. I want to find you, so I'm going to follow whatever you point. So that is the real reason that we follow the guidance, and the guidance itself in the direction, in form, is not for us to judge. It's not for us to say, I think it's a good guidance. I think that guidance is right. We don't, because we know the result or the goal that the guidance is leading is beyond this world. It's actually beyond this world. And that is truly what our life is given to, So that's why there is a unified purpose. We can use the word miracle-minded habitually because we don't compartmentalize our life and saying we have half of the day we're given to the project to produce something in this world, to create a better self-concept so that we can get more approval from this world. The half of the day we're going to go into meditation, we give it to the Spirit. No, we have one goal and one goal only. And our time and everything, every symbol that we perceive is you guide so that we can achieve. So that is how we can all live like that. That is truly how practical A Course in Miracle is, the teaching of the Course is. It is practical because it's not separated from this perceptual world. It's not just a mind game or thinking.
Yeah, we're not really asked to skip over anything. Like that's why we ask for your prayers when we say, please write it out for us. Spill the beans. Tell us your situation. Tell us what's going on in your heart. Tell us what your thoughts are, your concerns, because that's actually where it starts. Just like if you went to a psychotherapist, the psychotherapist has you come in and settle and relax and says, and tell me what's going on for you. There's an invitation. That's what we're doing. Tell me what's going on in your perceptual experience right now. Because it's not so much whatever we seem to perceive. We may think that there's a concrete world out there and that, you hear things, people are just this way, or people can't be trusted, or men are like this and women are like this, and this country is like this, or this race is like that. That's just stereotypical ego thinking. The problem's in the mind. That's where the ego is. The ego is not in the world. The ego's projected the world to hide behind it. It doesn't want you to find it in your mind. It wants you to keep pointing the finger and blaming what seems to be external circumstances that it projected out there so that you would get all caught up. I think of the Bible too. I remember that beautiful parable Jesus told where he talks about the parable of the sower, where the seeds are getting flung and flung and flung, and some are landing on the rocks, and some are landing on the thorns and the thistles, and some land in the fertile soil and spring up strong, and the other ones don't really do very well. The ones that are on the rock or that are out in the sun, they burn up, and they do. And then he tells the whole parable, and then of course, the apostles go, "What is the meaning, Master? What does it mean?" They don't know what he's talking about. Tell us what. And he says, well, the seed is the Word of God, and when we start talking about the stones, there's no roots. The sun will burn the seeds away because they can't root into the rocks. And then with the thistles and the tares and the weeds, basically, the seed grows up among the weeds, but the weeds, there's so many weeds that they just crowd out the Word of God. He has to tell them that the seeds are the Word of God. And all of us have been given the Word of God. All of us have been given this glorious truth. And it's a free, beautiful gift, but we have to we have to steer away from the distractions. We have to really make the prayer of our heart for God be so strong, because this is a world that the ego made of many, many distractions and many side roads that go nowhere. If you follow them out, they're dead ends. Every single one of them is a dead end. He says that in the Course. All of the roadways of the world lead to death. But, just like in The Wizard of Oz, if you hang in there with your mighty companions, it's not just Dorothy. We've got Tin Man. We've got Lion. Who else? There's more characters. They are there on the yellow brick road together, taking this journey. Is it a peaceful journey? I don't think flying monkeys and witches with the green pointy noses coming on broomsticks is exactly peaceful. They've got to face a few distractions themselves just to stay on the road. It takes a lot of faith with all the distractions. You turn on the TV or the media or the internet, you look in that little box, whether it's your internet screen or your phone screen or whatever, watch out for temptation. Watch out to have your mind get caught up in the images and the judgments and the interpretations and the conflicts. But once they make it to the wizard, that's hallelujah. They finally get into the wizard, and even there's a big screen trying to scare them. Big head, big loud voice, and lots of smoke, and it's basically the message on the screen is you should be afraid, you should be afraid. You go through this whole journey, you make it past the flying monkeys, you finally make it there, and you get a big head, like a big skull, telling you, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid, until Toto, the dog, jumps out of Dorothy's arms, runs over, and pulls the curtain on the little frightened man who's trying to use this big screen. It's like the ego is unveiled. The dog pulls the curtain, and then it tries to protect the pain. It pulls the curtain back. Pay no attention to the man behind the screen. Too late. Too late. They've seen him. The gig is up. This little puff, it's trying to to use this whole world of time and space to scare you, to keep you little, to keep you in a false identity, the gig is up. And that's what's so beautiful about this, is that you start to learn, I can follow guidance, and I really must follow the guidance if I'm going to go back. You were calling it the core. I must follow the core to go to the core. I must not follow the projections and the distractions to go to the core. I must follow the core to go to the core.
Mm-hmm.
And it works. That's one of the things we're here to talk about. That's what we love about this. I mean, everything that you pour out, whatever your seeming situation, is we're joining with you in an empowering sense to say the situation isn't determining your experiences. Your state of mind is not circumstance dependent. Your state of mind is not dependent on externals. It's not dependent on form. Viktor Frankl, the man who wrote that beautiful book, what was it, about meaning? It was about the Holocaust. And it was all, I remember Man's Search for Meaning, that's what it was. Viktor Frankl, he was in a concentration camp in Nazi Germany. And what did he write about in Man's Search for Meaning? He wrote a book that, what did he learn from Nazi Germany Holocaust? It's almost like right now people are saying, what are you learning from coronavirus? What did Viktor Frankl learn from the concentration camps? He learned one thing, and he wrote about it in that book, that my state of mind is my choice. I remember when I first saw that in the book, my mouth just dropped open, because I'd heard the idea before, but this was coming with a concentration camp in Nazi Germany. That's what he discovered. That was the purpose for him. That's what he took away from his experiences at a concentration camp, that my state of mind is my decision. And isn't that what Jesus is teaching us with A Course in Miracles? Isn't that the very same lesson that he is teaching us, that our state of mind is our choice? It's huge. My heart just burst open in joy when I read that in that book. Almost like, big moment in my life. This one, I'm not going to forget this lesson. And then you start to turn that lesson into your torch, your goal, your focus, And once you do that, you start to draw witnesses. Then years later, after Viktor Frankl's book, I pick up A Course in Miracles. Whoa, talk about an owner's manual to my choice, my state of mind is my choice. That's a pretty strong tool for it. But that's just a witness. The Course was just a witness to, I guess you could say, to the prayer of the heart.
That's the realization that gets you freedom. If you don't just hear the words because it's someone else's truth, you actually embody it and realize it for yourself, that it is my own choice to choose happiness, and it's only a choice. It's really not dependent on anything else. Then that is the end, truly. It is the end. It's just a matter of keep choosing it. So I think that is what the teaching is not we even need anything else, but all that we're doing is to practice and to have this glimmer of miracles by following the guidance so much to realize ultimately it's not only possible, it is up to us to choose it. And I think the desire that we have will guide us finding the calling. Just like this project come to me, not by my choice, so to speak, but offered absolutely everything in experience. And I think, of course, when we talk about guidance, the next question is how to hear guidance. And I would say that is through desire. That's truly how you hear guidance. Through desire, if that is truly what we want, then that's what we receive. That is the power of our mind. Whatever we want, we call to us the experience, the people that would help us, the kind of experience that would need for us to purify this desire.
Yeah, that was actually a question in here. I think, Krista, who's been talking to you, she actually asked in her question to loosen from the problems, fear, pressure, plans, and control I think I have, and from the how question. So that's beautiful. Krista's taking it all the way, saying I want to get free of the fear, the pressures, the plans, but also I want to get free from the how question. And I'm glad you brought it up in that way, because we have a past learning reference for the how. Whenever the ego comes in with how you're going to do it, it's asking you for the form.
Yes.
It's always asking you how you're going to do it. Oh, you want a house, how are you going to do that? You got no money. Oh, you want a relationship, how are you going to do that? With your self-concept, you want a relationship, the ego is like, what do you got to offer in return? You see how the how is associated with time. How are you going to do it? What are the means? But what Frances just shared was, what if the how is the desire? What if the how is deep within you, and you are going to get the answer into what is it that you want? Because ultimately, when you go through A Course in Miracles, he talks about forgiveness, he talks about the miracle, he talks about the holy relationship, and then he starts talking about the holy instant. And the way Jesus talks about the holy instant, he's like, if you know this holy instant, you will never doubt anything again. If you can find and experience this holy instant. But then he tells you, you can't find it by placing it in the future. Whoops, there goes the ego's plan. The ego doesn't even know what a holy instant is, but it would right away say, okay, what do I need? What do I have to learn? No, Jesus says you don't learn the holy instant. You have to unlearn everything that you believe to find the holy instant, but you find it by desiring it. And so that's really what you just said was the answer to Krista's question. That is the how. What do you want? Your mind is so powerful. Our mind was created with such power that what we want it sets off a chain of what seems to be beliefs, and a chain of decisions, and a chain of feelings that all come radiating out from the core of the desire. So that's what I find is, instead of trying to say, here's a problem I perceive, and these are the specific circumstances that I perceive a problem. Now, how am I going to get out of it, or how am I going to solve this Rubik's Cube of a projection? And it's more like, how do I feel? How do I feel? And what do I want to feel, which is even deeper than how do I feel, but what do I want? Do I really, really want peace? Or have I set in motion a perception of all kinds of things that are just reflections of wanting something other than peace? You see how simple that is? So it really brings it back to, I really need to have honesty about what is it that I really want. What is it that's on my altar in my mind? What have I placed on the altar? Well, this is also a time where we would like to get to know, open it up a bit.
Yeah, we have time to get into your questions, and even after the movie, we still have time to even answer or hear your expression, have the cast here. But tonight we also just thought to invite you to, to share with us where you're at. What is the prayer of your heart right now? We want to hear from you. Yeah, so you can raise your digital hands so that Eric can open the mic up for you and invite you to share with us.
Okay, Peter Block has raised his hand, but his video is off. So Peter, if you can turn your video on, we can see you. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and unmute you and you can just speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hi guys, how you going?
Good. Hi, Peter.
Yeah, Frances talked about praying for guidance at the start of the movie, and she didn't have time to doubt the answer. But what happens when you choose the wrong guide and you make a choice for the wrong decision, especially when it seems like so important? At times I've thought like, oh shit, like I haven't waited long enough and I've made that wrong decision, and it seems like it can't be undone. What happens then? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that definitely can come up as a question, like wanting to know. But what I have found out is what is right and what is wrong has to be really looked at, because I can just share with you the example. At the end of the movie, after 2 years of making it, I took the movie to a film studio in Portugal to get it all putting together. And it's a professional studio, and they basically spent a whole hour telling me the kind of mistakes we made. All the mistakes, even the cameras, we had 3 identical cameras. He told me that it was all on different settings. Some settings were right, some settings were wrong, which makes the ending compilation process extremely hard to do, almost impossible. So he was basically just sitting there telling me everything that went wrong. And I was sitting there in the film studio listening to everything that went wrong. And I thought, but how am I still here? I finished the movie. How is that possible? And then at the end of the hour, he said, and I fixed it. So all of that seeming mistake, he just one sentence at the end, and I fixed it. He just wanted to let me know. It's FYI. But for me, I was thinking, right. So we didn't get the most accurate setting. We didn't do the movie in the professional way, the most efficient, time-saving way, or even for the end product is probably not as polished as it could be. But what was the right decision? Because we followed Jesus. We trusted. So what was the real result? I purified my desire. I did nothing in that whole month except asking, listening, following. That's all I did. Did I want to hear him? Oh, yes. Did I want to hear my ego? No. I gave everything I got. I talked to the team. We were clearing up so many emotions and so many projections. We had such a deep relationship, so much undoing of the self-concept. In the end, everybody walked away saying, we don't care about the end result. Even if the movie got so wrong that nothing got come out, it was so right because it served the purpose that we held for that whole time. And that purpose was to learn how to listen and was to know how to heal, how to have a healing through relationships, through trust. We want to learn trust. We want to know that we are carried. That had to be learned through experience. That had to be learned through, and also how to mute these doubt thoughts. What is right? What is wrong? Actually, it's a good question you're asking because you reminded me. I was talking with Jason before the project. We went to Apple Store to look at some cables. And we were standing in the Apple store in Salt Lake City in Utah, and we were saying, let's have a prayer at the end of this project. We want to let go of the belief of right and wrong. That was my prayer with Jason, and he was also part of it. So I think it is, a total shift of mind. That's why we don't even know the goal. What is the right goal? What is the right end outcome? To be honest, everything that got achieved was so different from what we thought would be achieved, and so much more magnitude, so much more than what we could imagine when we got into it. And that was the gift,
Yeah. And you're just, Peter, it's so great that you're opening up and describing, even asking the question, because I would say too that the realm of time and space, the realm of seeming separation, and the human condition, I'll just call it the human condition, is a condition of trying to evaluate. So it seems very natural to a human being I want to make the right decisions, and there can be wrong decisions, and I need to tell the difference. In fact, why do our parents try to teach us the difference between right and wrong? Why do we go to school? All those years at school, most of us, is we're supposed to be in a curriculum of judgment, and a judgment of discerning between what's right and wrong. Now, it's kind of interesting when you step back at the human condition and you say, has anybody ever figured that out? Like, have we ever seen anybody go, definitively, this is right and this is wrong? I mean, there is no universal agreement. In fact, Jesus is saying there is no such thing, there will be no universal theology. It's almost like we're just praying, come on, give us like a current 10 Commandments, give us the correct theology, and Jesus is like, no, there will never be a universal theology, but there will be a universal experience, and that experience is of truth or union or oneness. And in that state of mind, the question of evaluation doesn't arise. In other words, God is not an evaluator. So you see how arrogant that is of the human condition to say, oh, I have to tell the difference between right and wrong. Now with the Course in Miracles, what Jesus says is, I know what you believe. I know what you believe is part of the human condition. So I'm going to simplify it. And I want you to take this concern about right and wrong, and right decision, wrong decision, I want you to take it off the body. I don't want you to evaluate the body at all. In fact, the Holy Spirit sees the body as neutral, so the Holy Spirit is not like good body, bad body, beautiful body, ugly body. No, that's the ego that projects all that onto the body. The body is just neutral to the Holy Spirit. And so the whole mind training is basically what he calls right mind, wrong mind. The ego is your wrong mind. Every decision you make with the ego is a wrong-minded decision. And every decision you make with the spirit is a right-minded decision. So that's good. That gives us something to go for. Because, this is duality here. So we need something, like, we need to drop a ladder down here, throw us a rope, throw something we can grab onto here, and grab a rung, anything you can. Now, but that discernment of right mind, wrong mind is in the mind. It's a purpose. So really, when you say you want to make the right decisions, you're really saying, I want to answer my calling. I want to be aligned with God. I want to be aligned with Spirit. In every seeming decision I make, in time and space, be you in charge. I would but follow. You guide, I listen. You know the way out, I don't. You see, that's really what it comes down to. Now, I'll give you one more tip here. Jesus does say that in the most basic way, the best way to tell whether you're aligned with Spirit or you're choosing the ego He says it's this one question: how do I feel? You see, he's saying you got too intellectual, you got too pushed away from your feelings. You've disconnected from your barometer. Your barometer is truly, how do I feel? Now, admittedly, the ego is real sneaky, so it comes up with its whole range of its own feelings, including like pain and pleasure, which actually are both part of the wrong mind. That's why it's so sneaky. Because one feels good and you think, that's a good one. And then, that's a bad one over there. Pain is the bad one, pleasure is the good one. Actually, the miracle transcends both pain and pleasure. When we start to follow our calling, all the mystics and saints have gone into a deep mystical union with the spirit that literally transcends the body and transcends feelings, those kind of dualistic feelings. So it's beautiful. You've kind of asked a question that actually is very important, and it's beautiful that you're the first one right out where you're saying, because there's a lot of anxiety and stress about making the right decisions. Mm-hmm. And I would say where the source of that anxiety is coming from the ego that has convinced us that we actually can make good choices and bad choices in form, like good behaviors and bad behaviors. You have to be good, behave good, and you're in God's favor. Behave bad, not good. You see, we put too much onto the body, and we have not focused enough on our thoughts. We have not focused enough on what's going on in our consciousness. So that's why we have a whole program. That's what the course is. It's a course in mind training. It's really a course in inner discernment, to become more practically speaking aligned and to be able to tell the difference between these two thought systems in the mind. And that's definitely a lifelong journey. It's not like, Frances did touch on it, like, what do you desire? I think that's the fast track, is like huge self-honesty about what is it that I really want. Because the ego has made so many pseudo-choices, so many distractions, it tries to make a very simple decision into a very complex equation. But thank you for asking that. And I think this weekend we'll actually start to show you, like you'll be able to watch these characters in the movie, because you'll see it on their faces. They want to do the right thing. You'll see their anxiety, and you'll see their uneasiness, almost like the ambiguity of like, I want to do this right. And behind that, I think they just want to heal. They really have a prayer for healing. Frances heard them all. She recorded all their prayers for healing, and then they forgot about them. And then when she's sitting in the editing room, she's like, holy cow, look at this. It's all there in the footage. She was able to, you might say, had the director's cut. She could see a massive amount of footage, but she could actually see that everyone who had prayed the prayer, their prayers were answered through the footage. And that we have to trust in that too, that basically all our prayers are answered.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a question from Jacqueline. Go ahead, Jacqueline.
Okay, so I'm not sure I have a question. I wanted to just say so I was like thinking about what Frances had spoken about how when you ask for healing and then something comes to you that you don't expect at all, like totally beyond what you could even think about, and then to just be able to accept it, and just take it in and say, this is it. This is what I asked for, instead of like saying, where did this come from? Or, why is this happening? To kind of get beyond that place and just really take it in. I'm not really sure what I'm saying, but I was kind of guided to raise my hand, so I'm going to try to get to this, because I think sometimes what we're guided to, what we're given, can be really terrifying. And maybe you experience that, but sometimes there can just be a lot of terror, and it's hard to look at it and go, whoa, I'm making this happen, and it's for a good reason, and guidance is taking me there. Yeah, sometimes it's just, but in a sense, you can feel that deep place, because I know that my deep prayer was to feel on an experiential level, not just an intellectual level, my connection with everyone and God and all that is. Just feel that. I really want that deep healing, and I don't want anything else. I mean, I've given up everything and just focused now on healing. I've been doing it for quite a while, and it got more and more intense. And now it's just like, there's nothing else but this. And, but I don't know. I'm just, that, I guess the question would be, if we are truly responsible for every thought and everything that we've created, and I see myself as the dreamer of the dream, but in a sense, I've created something, I've made something happen. I don't know about creation, but I'm making something happen that is just beyond anything I could comprehend. And I'm like, whoa, I'm working as hard as I can to make that shift into just accepting it and following guidance. In fact, I have to. There's no other choice. Now it's happening. I just have to do it. I have to go where I'm told, do what I'm told to do. It's just all guidance. So, but how do is there a way, could you just comment on it a little bit, anybody actually, about how to truly understand without any guilt or shame that I did this. I made, this is happening for a good reason or something. Does that make any sense at all? I'm sorry. I feel like I'm not quite making sense.
Yeah, I can just say, like, one thought that came to my mind was when Jesus says, forgiveness is only hard when you think you have to forgive what happened.
The truth.
The truth. But it's not so hard if you realize you're forgiving the untruth. So.
Yeah. I think it's always good to have the context that the very definition of falling asleep and forgetting oneness is taking what's true and real, which is spirit, and it's making that invisible, and then it's making visible or seemingly manifest that which is not true. So, in other words, we're perceiving a world made of guilt. Jesus, he corrects it. We're in the Bible, in Genesis, some of us grew up with Genesis, and God created the heavens and the earth. Jesus says, no, the ego made the world. God made it not. This is a projection of guilt. The world, he says, the world was made in hate. I like that when Jesus is so straight. That helps me right away. If the world was made in hate, that helps me start to know I'm going to pray to have a different vision, not the vision of the body's eyes, or I don't want to just hear through the body's ears and keep on perceiving guilt. There's even a workbook lesson that I know people sometimes come to, and they call me up after they do the lesson, and they go, David, what the hell does this even mean? And I'm thinking of the lesson, what I see is a form of vengeance. They're like, what does this mean? What do you mean, what I see is a form of vengeance? And I said, yeah, that's the basic core, but that also gives you the incentive to go beyond fragmented perception, beyond the five senses. So show me the vision of Christ. I'm determined to see with the vision of Christ. That's where my happiness, my peace will be. So I think it's great that you're raising this, because when we start to look at the world there is a tendency for us to want to like comprehend it or figure it out. We'd like to see it all segmented. Okay, tell me the steps. Can you give me like a 10-year plan, God? You know, can you do this? And Spirit's like, I'll give it to you one moment at a time. Wait a minute, you're not going to give me, how about a 5-year bargain, a 2-year plan? No, it comes because we're so convinced about what we're perceiving, and it got there because we believed it. We perceive it because we believed it, and now we have to get into self-inquiry. We have to start to always be inquiring, like all the saints and mystics, Byron Katie, Eckhart Tolle, all of them are saying the same thing. You have to inquire, and you have to go within, and you have to say, for me, for my mind, what do I believe? So when I see a politician and I have a reaction, or I see somebody dying, or I see something on the news or something and I have a reaction to it, always the inquiry comes to what do I believe about myself that I would perceive that as if it's somebody else. In one sense it's doing me a favor. It's being acted out, so I can get in touch with what actually I do believe. And that's the blessing. That's where I see that's a huge blessing in all this. But you don't have to figure out the projection. I'll tell you right now, that's one way to go really nuts, is to try to solve or figure it out. I like the line in I like how Jesus is so straight. Like one of the lines that I really like from the Course is Jesus says, "You are guilty in time, but not eternity." Oh, that really explains a lot. You are guilty in time, but not in eternity. Well, he's like calling us back to the kingdom of heaven, because he knows that we don't really exist in time. He's not saying that we're guilty at all. He's just saying what you have made or what you believe about yourself is you believe that you're guilty, but you're not really, because that's not really you, and you haven't left the mind, the loving mind that created you. So thank you, Jacqueline. I think that's another great one that it wasn't even a question, but you helped clarify a lot of things for us that we need for this weekend.
Thank you. Well, it's the end of our session, I think.
Yeah, I think it zoomed by.
Yeah.
Zoom on Zoom.
Yeah. But I think we're still gonna have time tomorrow, and tomorrow we'll probably have more time even to open it up and answer more of your questions, because they're so focused. They're really something. You pull it out of us, because it was just real prayer of the heart. So we look forward to come back again tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it's very much of a highlight for us when we get to really read what you've written in, because it's really, in one sense, that's like how the Spirit's orchestrating it for all of us. It always starts with the prayer of the heart, and your transparency is like a huge invitation, because it may seem like people have individual problems, but really we're getting down toward the roots and towards the core. And so we all are blessed by every prayer, by every question that comes up, and we really look forward. We can address some that we have in print, and also that's what we love about opening it up and having it being very participative.
Yeah.
So tomorrow morning, or depending on where you are located in the world, we will have a very interactive session, and then again the movie and the participants. You will not only be able to watch the movie, but you will have some of the key players in the movie available to ask questions and help you in getting clear about the healing. what they went through, what their process was, what they were thinking. Maybe you see a particular scene in the movie and you just say, oh, I can't wait to ask, what were you thinking when that happened? Because maybe that relates to something in your life or your situation where you're facing a very similar thing and you would like to know how did you approach that? What did you do internally? It's beautiful. So thank you all. It's just such a delight to be here with you. Very intimate. These weekends online are extremely intimate, and we like everybody just spills the beans and pours it out. And sometimes you've been asking and praying for an opportunity to do that, where it's just kind of going around like a tumbler in your mind, and you need to speak it. You may not even have a question, but you need to speak it out so that you can look at it in a different way with some help. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you for being part of this weekend. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.